Hello and welcome to this episode of Our PAC Politics Podcast. Our podcast is brought to you by our United Resource PAC. We are a tax-exempt political organization. I am your host, Brittany McDowell, and again, thank you for joining us for this Monday morning episode. Like I said, we're a political organization, and most of the times we talk about the news regarding COVID-19, economic stimulus and relief. But I actually want to use this episode to talk about a specific politician. I want to talk specifically about why we want this politician re-elected. His name is Ted Lieu, and again, why do we want him elected? Why do we want him re-elected? Why should people care about this guy called Ted Lieu? Well, this episode we're going to talk a little bit about who he is and why he should be re-elected in the state of California. That's what we have lined up for this Monday morning episode, or Monday episode. Maybe it's not morning when you're listening to it, right? Today, we're talking about Ted Lieu. So sit back. This shouldn't be too long of an episode. And yeah, let's talk Lieu. Before we can actually have the conversation about why Ted Lieu needs to be reelected, let's first talk a little bit about who he is, okay? Ted Lieu is a Democrat. He, quite frankly, is a Democrat who supported the election of Hillary Clinton in the last presidential election cycle. He's running for re-election, and that election is on November 3rd of this year. He assumed office back in 2015, and should he not be re-elected, his term will end on January 3rd of 2021. He's from the 33rd Congressional District in California. And he currently serves on two committees, those committees being the Committee on Foreign Affairs and the Committee on Judiciary. If you want to kind of examine, some of the many, many votes that he has taken, imperative votes, there's one that stands out for some people, and that's the vote of yes on impeaching Donald Trump for high crimes and misdemeanors, the HRES 755. He also sponsored AB 550, which for us was pretty important, considering that we are focused on economic stimulus and relief. AB 550, which it's not necessarily related to COVID-19. It is legislation that is focused on California financial literacy. It's an initiative. So that was, we feel that it's imperative that people be financially literate, right? He's running against James P. Bradley, a Republican. And if you want to look a little bit at his previous performance, Ted Lieu's previous performance from an election point of view, in the primary, he got 60, a little bit more than 60% of the primary vote, which is significant, for some. But when you look at his previous support, his support has actually dropped by almost 10% in the last election cycle. He had about 70% of the vote. So yes, he does hold a substantial percentage of the vote. But again, when you compare it to his last election cycle, his support has actually dropped. When you look at the lifespan of his political career, he's run in 6 races, and he's run in 8 races, and he's won 6 of those 8 races. So he has a 75% electability rate, which is something that we kind of look at as an organization. How electable is this candidate? How many races have they won compared to how many have they actually run in? He has a few, notable endorsements. He's endorsed by the Americans for Democratic Action, Children's Defense Fund, Common Cause, Freedom First Society, National Association of Police Organizations, which some might be like, oh my gosh, but it is what it is, right? He's also endorsed by Network, a national Catholic social justice lobby, Progressive Pledge, as well as U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Obviously, he is endorsed by more, but for our organization, those were some of the notable endorsements that we felt you needed to know about. So that is, in a nutshell, who Ted Lieu is. In just a second, we're going to talk about why there should be support for Ted Lieu. Now, some of you may not be in California, so you don't have the ability to vote to help Ted Lieu be reelected. That's okay. But it still is important that you are aware of Ted Lieu because I think in a lot of ways he sets standards that, quite frankly, should be replicated across this nation. And for those of you who are in the 33rd District of California, this is particularly important for you because you may not know about Ted Lieu, or if you know about him, you may be one of those people with which his support has dropped. And I hope not, because there are some things that are relevant to the times that we are living in, the time of COVID-19, that not just in this current moment, but when you examine his past, I think that it's evident that he is, as they say, the man for the job. Well, speaking to that past, if you even go back to 2014, one of the things that I think is very notable for Ted Lieu as a candidate is that there's actual documentation of him supporting via Project Vote Smart. Vote Smart is a resource that we heavily use as an organization when we do research on candidates, by the way. But per Vote Smart, there is documentation of him supporting federal spending as a means of promoting economic growth. So what that speaks to is the fact that he is a candidate who, again, going back to 2014, has understood that sometimes, not in every case, but sometimes when you need the economy to grow, sometimes there is going to have to be federal action. And so he is a candidate who has not just in recent times kind of had a come to Jesus moment, kind of had an aha moment where he has said, oh, well, I think, for political expediency that now is the time to support federal spending. No, this is a man who for 6 years, again, as documented, the past 6 years, has understood and supported federal spending for economic stimulus. So we can trust in him when he tells us, when he shows us by means of his votes that, hey, I believe that the government is going to have to help the American people get out of this. You don't have to, based on the evidence, you don't have to worry about this politician flip-flopping because he has held this position since 2014, even before COVID-19 was a thing, right? And then even in the more recent past, when you look at when the pandemic first became a pandemic, he quite frankly has understood and communicated that understanding he's understood that COVID-19 has been a grave threat. He has not been a politician who has flip-flopped in saying, in the very beginning, oh, this is, on par with the flu, or this is just a really bad cold. No, he has understood the health implications, the public health threat, the threat to the health of Americans that COVID-19 has been. So already in these two things, guys, we are seeing a politician who is steady and reliable, two things that, quite frankly, you do not see on a regular basis, really at all, with many politicians. He obviously did support the CARES Act. Pretty much every politician, right, did support the CARES Act. But obviously now there's a lot of contention about what they're supporting, right? He does also support, he has gone on the record in supporting the $600 weekly emergency unemployment payments to unemployed individuals, and that's another reason we think that he needs to be reelected. And the main thing for us as an organization in making the determination of where we stood on Ted Lieu, where we currently stand on Ted Lieu as an organization, again, it pretty much boils down to two things. I mean, there are a lot of things that you can take from this exceptional candidate, things that, quite frankly, I didn't even mention during this podcast. But two things were of the utmost importance for us. And again, first and foremost was the documentation going back to 2014, that again, this is a politician who understands and stands by the need that sometimes the federal government is going to have to spend to assist the economy, to spur economic growth. So we can trust that this is something that he believes in principle and not just as a matter of political expediency. And then secondly, for us, and the other thing that was previously communicated was the fact that, again, he understood and communicated that COVID-19 was a grave threat. He did not downplay it as we had seen with other politicians. Now, I don't want to act as if some politicians or all politicians downplayed it as a matter of negligence, because that wasn't the case. Because quite frankly, there were politicians, as I think was the case for a significant portion of the American people. There were just, people who just didn't understand, quite frankly, myself included. We just didn't understand the devil we were dealing with, right? So, but this is, again, a politician, again, that understood from the beginning that this was a grave danger to the American people. So for these reasons, we support Ted Lieu, and we think that those of you who, again, are in who are in Congressional District 33, where Ted Lieu is located, we really think that if you were in the position where, you are one of the people maybe that previously supported him, but that support has decreased with you, or if you just aren't really familiar with him and you are in that district, he is someone that you should pay attention to, especially in these times, especially when you're looking at COVID-19, because he does have a track record, a documented track record of the, at least the understanding, the importance of federal support, federal assistance as a means of spurring economic growth, which again is most needed during this time. Are you on Facebook? We're on Facebook. Check out our Facebook page in the description box of this episode. We have our blog posts, we share our latest episodes, we share relevant information related to COVID-19 economic stimulus and relief. Again, we do it all on our Facebook page. Check it out in the description box of this episode. See you there. When you think of Ted Lieu as a candidate, it's important to note that, again, in the recent primary, he got slightly more than 60% of the primary vote, which, on paper is a good thing. It's over half, right? But when you compare his support to the support that he had in the previous election cycle, it's actually dropped by about 10%. And so people need to be aware, again, for those who are in Congressional District 33 in California, people need to be aware that on the issue of COVID-19 economic stimulus and relief, he is good not just for California, but for the country. More people, when they come to understand this about Ted Lieu, there should be an increase in his support. Quite frankly, if I were on the Lieu campaign, one of the things that I would definitely be pressing on at this point is the communication of what our candidate has supported. Again, specifically and namely, going back to 2014, that support and understanding of federal spending as a means of promoting economic growth. I would really stress this with people so that way people could not just understand what he believes and what he wants to see, but understand that this is a part of him that has been around. This is a belief that he has held for years, and this is not just something that he is thinking or saying to his constituents. Again, is a matter of political expediency. People need to understand that this is what we need to see at this time. And I really, really, really think that, again, if his campaign were to focus on that, then that, maybe not alone, but that would, in a significant way, really aid in kind of seeing that number come up from about 60% up towards that 70% where it previously was. So if you were wondering why I even took this episode to talk about Ted Lieu, it's because, again, we're a political organization and we want to help him increase his likelihood of re-election. Now, obviously, as a super PAC, we can't, work with him, specifically and directly. That's against election laws in this country. But what we do want to do and what we can do alone as an organization is we can help drive information regarding him as a candidate. And so we want to inform people specifically in his district, District 33 in California. We want to inform people more on where he stands on COVID-19 economic stimulus and relief. Again, not just, by talking about what he has said recently, but really driving home the fact that this man, this politician, has understood what we need since 2014. So if you were in the district or not, if you would like to help us support those efforts, if you'd like to help us do this by means of running political ads, consider making a financial contribution, to which you can find that link below in the description box, and you can help us fund our political ads to help his re-election. Hey, this is Brittany. Just wanted to shoot you a quick reminder. Look in the description box of this episode and you can find a link to our website. On our website, you can find our latest blog posts. You can find our contact information. You even want to make a contribution, you can go over there and do that as well. You can find out the policies we are looking at and targeting as an organization. I say all the time that we are a tax-exempt political organization. If you want to know more about that, again, go on over to our website, our-pac.com, where you can find out everything you want to know. You can do everything you want to do. We will gladly welcome you on our website with open arms. Again, check out our website in the description box below. All right, so thank you for listening to this Monday episode of our PAC Politics Podcast. I hope you, if you haven't been aware of who Ted Lieu is, I hope that this episode provided you with a little bit of information regarding Ted Lieu, and I hope that you better understand why we support Ted Lieu and can at least understand our position on him as a candidate. And if you happen to be in a congressional district 33 in California, hopefully you understand it in a way that, quite frankly, I personally hope pushes you a little bit closer towards supporting the candidate, whether you support him already, and it's maybe taken you from a place of not supporting him to at least questioning the potential of support, or if you have already decided to support Ted Lieu, maybe this has kind of re-solidified your support and kind of made that support stronger, right? So hopefully this provided you with more information. So this is typically not, we typically haven't discussed specific politicians on our podcast. You can look forward to some of that. We obviously will talk about about the news regarding COVID-19 economic stimulus and relief. What I'm hoping for, quite frankly, is that on Wednesday's episodes or Fridays, we can talk specifically and more about this upcoming stimulus package vote that we should be getting due to Nancy Pelosi's unveiling of her new skinny proposal, right? I guess she wanted to be skinny like the Republicans. So that's all I have for this episode. I hope it was informative for you. If you're not in District 33, Congressional District 33 in California, but you know someone who is, consider sharing this episode with them because this should be and hopefully will be informative for them as well. So enjoy your Monday. I hope it is productive. And as I always say, wear your hazmat suit, stay safe, and I will see you on Wednesday. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.